I'm not saying anything new. This year sucked. And it robbed most of us of our most precious commodity, which is our sense of control. So in this video, I'll be going over the 3 C's of control that'll help you understand the best ways to get your sense of control back. Hey, welcome back, family. I want to jump right into how do we get our sense of control back. But first, let me just say that control is primarily internal, right? It's not external. You can't really control what's going to happen next in your external world. I mean, who knows? Next month, the mole people that live in the middle of the earth might come out and start a war with the human race. I mean, look, it's 2020. Anything is possible, right? So just to start with the fact that if we want control back, we have to start internally. What we can do within our own mind and for ourselves. So with that said, let's get started with the 3 C's of control. That is going to be how do we consume, how do we contribute, and how do we create. Starting with the first C, consume. Now, most of us feel bullied by the things that the news reports, right? We're constantly feeling thrown here and there by what's happening in social media, the things that we read, the things that we listen to. And so the truth is, all these bits of information are neutral. It's us who decide to give it value. So the best news is we can turn off the TV. Like, that's the best news. We can unfollow people on Instagram and unfriend people on Facebook. Like, that is amazing. So when I'm talking about consume, I'm talking about managing the information that comes into your mind and takes up the space of your peace, right? That's kind of the seed of anxiety, where what are we worried about? What are we thinking about late at night? And oftentimes the things that we consume through the day will indicate and kind of force what consumes our thoughts and our worries. So here's what I want you to change up. I want you to change what you consume. Pay attention to what you take in, what you bring in to your mind, to your world, and make sure the only things that you bring in give you energy, give you value back, right? I want you to begin to mute and lower the volume of the excess, things that are permissible but not necessarily beneficial to you. Maybe do an audit of the voices, the authors, the podcast, the channels, the movies, all that speak into who you are within a day, and decide on how you can begin to prune the voices that add more weight and stress and anxiety, and maybe amplify or turn up the volume on the voices that actually give you something, that actually resource you and give you energy for moving forward. Okay, so that's the first way that we're going to get our sense of control back, is going to be by the things that we consume. Let's go on to contribute. So it's time to pay attention to the things that you contribute towards. I want you to do an audit of how you spend your money, how you spend your time, how you spend your attention, your focus, right? And essentially get an idea of where that goes, and make sure you direct it towards something that you genuinely are compassionate about and something that you really want to support. Here's the big hint, guys. Big hint is contribute to yourself first. It adds to your overall sense of control and your ability to control the output of your life. So this is something to consider. Lastly, let's take a look at create. All right, I'm just going to say it because it's the truth anyways. The world keeps giving us garbage. Life just keeps handing garbage after garbage, month after month, and it's so overwhelming. It gets to the point where it's like, well, when is this all going to stop? And every indication of what the next month, the next 2 months, the next year is going to look like is that we're probably going to continue to get garbage for a while here. Well, maybe and perhaps it's time that we change our expectation of receiving something that we can work with, and instead putting something out there in the world that we create, that came from us. Personally, I learned this some years ago. I have worked as a family therapist, and there was a time where I was working with some of the hardest cases, children coming from trauma, foster care, adoption, and look, people don't change overnight. It's a journey. It takes time. So I reached a point in my own life where every day I was going in and dealing with mess and being in the middle of people's trauma and their hardship, that I would need to come home and I'd feel overwhelmed. Well, I eventually just ended up going in my garage and building tables. I created tables for our house. I created tables to sell online. And eventually I created a store And you know, it's had some success, and now I go in and build a table whenever I feel like it. But what's happened is, instead of me having to look at and only pay attention to the destruction and the things falling apart and the hardships in my life, I had an opportunity to contribute my energy to creating something that I can find joy in, that I can find encouragement in, right? And that's what I want for you. I want you to think about how you can create and essentially kind of create your own sense of agency, your own sense of control in the world that you live in, right? So that's it. That's it. I want you to focus on those three things to get your sense of control back. All right, let's start with consume, contribute, and create. All right, guys, thank you again for being a part of this. And again, let's keep moving forward.